Hi fellow Django developers, Hezekiah here from alwaysdjango.com, where we discuss interesting Django topics that helps you grow, improve as a Django developer. So if that sounds interesting, like, subscribe, share this video with anyone you feel will find this video important. Let's get into it. So in the last tutorial, we discussed what apps are in Django, right? So if you don't know what apps are in Django, go and watch the last tutorial. I will leave a link to it in the description. It should also be popping up on your video on your screen right now if you are using YouTube, right? So but let me just recap. Apps are like building blocks for your Django project, so different components that makes up your Django project. So in that tutorial we created this books app, right? So we created this book app, we created this views function, we copied our function, we moved our function from here to here, right? So I mentioned in that tutorial that we'll be looking at how to render HTML templates and Django, right? So what we have already, our development server is on. So what we have already, if we refresh, we see all books, but what we are returning here is a HTTP response, right? Even though it's in the HTML tag, in the HTML h1 tag, there is no how we'll have a full HTML template in between this function, this argument here, right? So we are going to look at how to separate our templates from our views. And again, Django is an MVT framework, model view template framework. So we have not looked at the model, we have looked at the view, we have seen the view, which is this. Now it's time to look at the templates, right? So to create a template, to make our templates in Django, what we are going to do is that we are going to tell Django where to store our templates, where our templates are, where Django should look for our templates, right? So in a separate folder, right? So let's create that folder already. In our root here, in our project root folder, I create a folder here, name it templates, right? So this templates folder, we house our templates file, our index.html file, login.html, register all our HTML files, our HTML template files, right? So let me create a HTML template file already, index.html. So this will be our home page, right? Let me just get something on. So let's say index page, right? So in between h2, I'll say index page here, right? So we have created this template folder, we have created our index.html file. Now it's time to tell Django where to find our template file, because Django doesn't know where to look at to find our template file for now, right? So to do that, we'll go to our settings.py file, right? So to find your settings.py file, if you're using VS Code, you can simply hold Control, press P, it brings out this search bar here. You search for settings.py file, it comes out here, you click on it and it opens it up. But if you're not using VS Code, here's how to find it. So in the project you created, there is a folder created. Django creates a folder. If you create a project in Django, Django creates a folder inside the project named with the same name as that project name, right? So the name of our project is Complete Django Beginner. So Django created a folder in that project called Complete Django Beginner, right? In your case, it might be anything. In my case, it's Complete Django Beginner, right? So we come here, we open this. If we open this, you see a settings.py file, right? So if you open this settings.py file, this is what you have right here, right? This is what you have. This is our settings for our application, our Django application. This is our here you see the allowed host, you see the debug, which is true right now, you see the application secret key, you see the installed applications, we'll look at it, we'll see the middlewares also. So right here you see a Python list here whose name is templates, right? Inside this template you see a DIRS, that's DIRS, DIRS, right? So here is where we tell Django this is where to find our template folder, right? So to do that, let's import. So right here we have a variable, base there, right? So this base there holds the directory path for our absolute directory path for our Django project. So the path where you created your Django project. So for me, I created this Django project in my local host. Then you go to YouTube folder, always Django. The name of the project is complete Django Beginner. So this base there, we hold this variable. This is the value of this variable right here. This is the value of this variable right here, the absolute path to your Django application, right? So if you look at here, this path right here, this value right here hold this path right here. So if you add templates to it, we can get the path to this template folder. So that's what you are looking at here. So we'll copy this right here. So in our des object value, we'll come here, we enter this, we say dot join path, right? So which part do you want to join? Templates, right? So let me format this. So this is what we have here. So this now is a directory path to this templates folder. So what we are doing here is that when this application runs, it comes here, Django comes here, looks at this template list, it comes to the des, it looks at the des directories where our templates can be found, right? So inside this des, it meets this value here, which is our base directory concatenated, joined with this templates folder, right? That's telling Django that we're using this folder to store our templates files, right? So let's render out in views.py file. Let's look for a way and render out this index.html file, right? So if you created an app in Django, inside this views.py file, you should by default, let's remove this. We will not be using this, right? We will not be return the HTML response no more. So let's remove this, right? So this is what you have. This is what you have by default in your views.py file, right? So let's create our view again. We named it book accepts request. If you don't know what views and URLs are in Django, go and watch the last 2 tutorials. You get to understand it. I'll also leave a link to it in the description, right? So we have created our view, right? So we said a view in that tutorial. We mentioned that a view is a function or a class that accepts the request argument and returns a response, right? So which response do you want to return right now? We want to return a HTML response, right? So here from Django.shortcuts, right, we import render. Now this render is a method with which we can render out our templates, right? Now this render takes in 3 arguments. The last one is optional, right? The first argument is the request, right? This request right here that was passed into this view. The first one is the request. Now the second one is the template file, right? What's the name of the template file? Index.html. Remember guys, you don't have to add these templates. Maybe say templates / index.html. Because you added this template, this directory right here, Django already knows to go into this templates file. So what you just have to have here is index.html file. Or if you have another folder, let me say you have another folder called pages, and maybe this file is in this pages, this index.html file is in this pages folder. Then maybe you can say Django will come here, go to this templates file. If you go to this, if it goes to this templates folder, it now checks. You now tell it to go to maybe pages, then and locate your index.html file. But we don't want this to be in the pages. We simply want it to be in the template. Let's delete this. I just use this for example, right? So what we have here is the index.html, right? So here, right? So the next argument here is the context. What's the context? The context are like variables we want to pass to our template file. Let me say you are getting the user here. Let me say the user ID is equal to 1. You are running your code, you are running many processes to get the user ID. After getting the user ID, you want to render it out in this HTML file. So to pass it into the HTML file, you say context is equal to, context is a dictionary. It's the first argument is the name of this variable, the name with which you want to reference this variable in your template. Let's say you want to reference it with user ID. Then the value is this variable right here, which is user ID, right? So this variable gets passed into our template file. So let's go back to this application. Let's reload. We are seeing this. Let's go back. Let me see what is wrong. So in our we have books. We use this method here. So we didn't return this, guys. We didn't return. I'm very sorry. So you return this render, right? So if you return this, our server will reload, or is it not? So if we return this, our server reloads. After reloading, let's reload our browser. We see index page here. Hooray! That's wow. Whatever. So, but in our index page, we have not yet used this variable we passed in, right? So that will be in the next tutorial. I don't want to make these tutorials too long. I want to break it into pieces so that when you watch every tutorial, you grab a basic point right here. So the point you're grabbing out of this tutorial should be how you can render how to render template files in your Django application, right? So in the next tutorial, we'll look at how to render these variables in your template. These variables you passed from your views file, you passed into this template file, how to render them out right here. We also look at how to use loops. That's for loops in your index page. If you are passing in maybe a list of books into this template file, how to loop over it, how to use filters, template filters, etc. So we'll look at that in the next tutorial. For now, stay in peace, take care of yourselves, peace.